Coming up on Main Street, a modern collage. First, we visit Steve Rey in Owensboro, whose specialty just happens to be airbrush art. His images transform everything from canvas to car parts. Then meet Chris Radus, a self-described glorified whittler who does his carving with the most unusual knife. And finally, we'll spend a day with Paul and Patricia Ferrell, who've made a life for themselves at Brushy Fork Creek, where nature is the key. Straight ahead on Main Street.
Funding for Main Street was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you who support quality programs such as Main Street that appear only on public television.
Hello and welcome to Main Street. I'm Barbara Deeb. You know, Kentucky is home to a wide variety of creative talents. We often fail to appreciate the artistic value that can be found in everyday objects, commonplace objects, like an automobile hood, a tree, or even a plant stem can be transformed into artistic elements. Join us now as we bring you a modern collage of art as seen through the eyes of four very skilled artists. Steve Rey is an artist who likes unusual canvases, most notably Chevrolet Corvettes. Steve is an airbrush artist, so he'd done his share of hats, t-shirts, and the occasional gas tank on a motorcycle. But then he bought his first Corvette, and the rest, as they say, is history. He'd found his canvas, his medium, and you can find his work on both the inside and outside of Corvettes all over the country.
It's just two different types of art. I mean, you know, some that paints with a palette brush might argue that the airbrush is, I've heard some say it's not real art, but to me it's a whole lot more fun. I think you can do a whole lot more with it in a shorter period of time. My inspiration is a customer. What do you want? Okay, I want this, this, and this. Okay. I'll take it from there. You know, I got a good idea what you want. So I guess I'm inspired by the fact that a customer has an idea in their head. They expect me to bring it to life. In other words, I don't know 100% exactly what I'm going to do. And probably the best way to get a good piece of art is, you know, get on the same page and then give me a little freedom once I get in there, because sometimes plans change in the middle of the game, and that's, in my opinion, when things end up looking a little bit better in the long run, because I'm like, hey, let's do this or let's do that. It's just, you know, I get paid to do this. It's almost not right. Well, I mean, it's a job, don't get me wrong, and I work long hours, but it's because I want to. So yeah, it is a job, but, you know, 90% of the time it's fun. You know, it's only when you got to do the paperwork and you got to do some of the other little things, you know, that kind of takes me away from the artwork. You know, if I could just lock myself in a booth and just do nothing but paint, I would have it made, but there is some other things that go along with it. So, but yeah, I do, it's fun. After 20 years, for me to say I thoroughly enjoy my job, I love coming into work, there's not a lot of people that could say that. I paint Corvette parts in my sleep, it seems like. I literally will wake up with, you know, some sort of design I had planned to put on, some fuel rail covers that, you know, it's the covers that fit under the hood of a Corvette. You know, I'll still paint t-shirts every now and then. You know, I got a couple guys that work for me full-time that paints the t-shirts and the batting helmets and all that kind of stuff that frees me up so I can do the Corvette parts. You know, I still do some bikes and stuff from time to time. But most of it is the Corvette parts. There's a pretty huge demand for it right now, and hopefully I'm helping fill that, I guess. You'd never thought that buying a new Corvette would actually put more money in your pocket. You know, it's usually the other way around. But I had it on order, and while I was waiting to get it, I actually got on one of the forums, CorvetteForum.com, and started trying to learn a little bit about the Vette. Well, as I was learning about the Vette, I was thinking, you know, this site has hundreds of thousands of members, and you know, there's not really anybody doing custom paint. I think I could probably maybe get in here and show them what I can do, and I did, and here we are. And it just keeps growing and growing. And there's nothing I like more than once the job's done than saying, that's exactly what I was thinking, or that's even more than what I expected. So that's really, honestly, my true inspiration, just the fact that when it's done, they're, you know, 100% satisfied with it. My only regrets is, you know, most of the time I don't actually get to meet the customer face to face because I'm shipping so much stuff out. Every now and then I'll get a guy that'll pick it up in person, so that's true satisfaction. I like seeing that look in their face, you know, as opposed to getting that email that, you know, the emails are fine, but the look in the face says it all, really. I want to always be better than the next guy. I'm not saying I'm the best, but it's a pretty good goal to shoot for. And if you're always shooting to be the best, then, you know, I think you're only going to get good results, really. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, just become more and more successful. I try not to let it consume me. I try to have a life outside of this. I try to get out and hang out with guys and just be your average guy, because that's what I am. I'm not an astronaut. I'm just a painter. You know, there's thousands of us out there. I mean, I'm passionate about what I do. Want to put out good work. You know, I want people to know that if they hear the name Airbrush Inc. and they do business with Airbrush Inc., then they're going to get quality work every time. And as long as I'm there, that's exactly what they're going to get.
You seem like you're really proud of what you do.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, everybody should be proud of something that they do. And whatever it is you do, whether it's sweeping floors or washing cars or being an astronaut, do it to the best of your ability.
Like a paleontologist in search of what lies beneath, chainsaw sculptor Chris Radus transforms trees into nature's artful bounty.
I don't think that I can improve on nature. I like to think I can add a little bit to it. I don't know that it's what I do to a tree makes it any more attractive than if it was a tree still alive, but most of the wood, I think everything I have ever carved on tree, I mean every tree that I've ever carved has already been dead or dying, so it kind of prolongs it a little bit maybe. And instead of just cutting it down, it'll be art for another couple years or something, you know, instead of heading out to the landfill. It's just like being a, paleontologist. It's not digging fossils. It's in there. You just got to take away everything that's not what you want. A lot of it depends on the size of the piece. Of course, you have to have enough stock to remove. It's carving, and this sort of, I call it sculpting, but I don't know that it really is. It's more like a glorified whittling. And people that work in stone will tell you the same thing, that it's a subtractive process. Whatever you have on that piece of stock, you have. You're not going to add anything to it. You can't, you kind of have to. The way I look at it, if you ever watched like Nova, one of the nature shows where there's an archaeologist or like a paleontologist or somebody, and you see like a fossil or an artifact that's buried in the ground, and they'll dig it out. That's the way I can look at that tree and say, well, it's in there. I just, you just, like my dad said, you just take away everything that doesn't look like what you're making. And it's just that easy, and it's just that difficult. I have a picture of it in my head. I can look at whatever I'm doing and I see that there already. And it's just, sometimes I'll make a few lines, sometimes I'll sketch it out as well as I can, just because, you know, I know it's like it's a one-shot deal. Like I said, you gotta, you know, once you take it off, you can't put it back on. I use a saw just like you use a knife. It's fast. Sometimes it's too fast. You really got to pay attention to what you're doing, because when I was little, when I started whittling, my dad told me, now listen, he said, I'll tell you one thing I know about that. He said, it's way easier to take that wood off than it is to put it back on. So, and with the saw, it comes off real fast. In my head, I see a big hand pointing up with a paintbrush because of the proximity to the Founding Museum, and sort of a tribute to his being a painter and being a wonderful painter. It's sort of like it'll be like a monument to a painter. And what better than a hand holding a paintbrush? You know, that's what painters do. I did a lot of whittling, like little stuff whittling when I was little. And it just kind of grew as I grew, I guess. I wanted to make some bigger pieces, so you need, of course, bigger stock. You know, you need bigger materials to make bigger pieces with. And that's where the chainsaw comes in, because you can take off a lot of wood fast with a chainsaw. But you know, the bad thing is you can take off a lot of wood fast with a chainsaw. So it was a big learning curve, going from like a little, you know, whittling knife and a hammer and chisel to a saw. But it's just like a big noisy pocket knife. You can't get a lot of detail just because the size of the chain and the size of the bar. The chain cuts about probably 3/8 maybe, you know, a cut 3/8 of an inch wide. So if you want a finer line, you really can't do it with a saw. So sometimes I'll use a hammer and chisel. Sometimes I use a hatchet or an axe every once in a while. And a lot of times I'll use a hatchet to cut the bigger pieces off. So you can't get inside a lot of things with that saw. There's some carvings I've done where I've added metal because it was easier, because the structure of the log, of course, it has grain, and once it starts drying, it'll split, and you can't get away with a lot of thin elements on your piece. So I'll add metal to it. Plus, I like the way it looks. I like the way the metal looks with the wood. And just the natural, you know, rusty looking patina on the metal, I think looks real nice with the natural wood. I just like the way it looks, especially rusty metal, or the way copper and brass turn green when they're sitting out, the patina they get on them. I just think that looks real nice with natural wood. The finish on natural wood, I think it just goes well with the, you know, it's sort of like another natural element. Rarely will I paint anything, mostly because, well, you know, I don't like the way it looks, but some because I just, you know, when I'm done with it, I'm done with it. By nature, a tree is going to grow and die and rot and return to the earth, so maybe, you know, I'll give it it looks a little bit, when I'm done with it, hopefully it looks a little better than if it was dying and rotting and falling down, you know, or I think it does. I feel it's just nature, and like I said, I'll give it another couple years of life, or, you know, and then when it goes, it's just part of it. It just goes. I don't have any delusions of any of my work being in a, you know, lasting 200 or 300 years, but, you know, it looks good for a couple years. It's just part of it. I like doing it. Having done it is to me not as rewarding as doing it.
Nature is an important element in the art of Paul and Patricia Ferrell. They've managed to carve out a peaceful environment in which to nurture their art and their spirits. Let's take a look.
We bought this property, you know, as uncleared land, and we've tried to create our world here and have lots of flowers and vegetables and just try to be compatible, you know, with our environment.
We have put everything we have into this place. We started with uncleared land, of course. We've built everything. We've made a lot of mistakes, but we've tried to blend in with our surroundings. We have about a 20-acre block we call the homestead area, where we have the blueberries and the orchards and the gardens and the galleries and the horses and everything. Parts of the farm we've cleared, just sensibly cleared, for pasture and for hay. But I think that when people come out here, they see there's another way to live. No matter what you do, you should be happy at it, but you're going to do a lot of it. And there's other ways to make a living. Not everybody's cut out for this. And also, I think that this is a perfect example of don't look at the exterior and decide on what's inside of it.
My approach to pottery is fairly simplistic, and every time I try to get complicated, it just doesn't work for me. So what I enjoy doing is sharing the beauty of Brushy Fork Creek with other people. So I do a lot of plant impressions, and I like to make things for the garden and for the kitchen. And I think that it's very important to me that my pottery be functional, and I like for people to use it, because the more you use it, the more you enjoy it. So I guess celebrating the environment would be a very big part of what I do with the pottery. And I like the Chinese brush painting because it has birds and bugs and bamboo and flowers and all the things that are important to us. Well, a lot of times I get ideas while I'm sleeping. I'll have a thought in my head when I go to sleep, and then I'll wake up in the morning and try to write things down. So that's always been a really good inspiration for me. And then just as far as walking around, and like right now the grasses are blooming and going to seed, so I like to, when I'm out in the pasture with the horses, I will just pick a few things that I think are really pretty. I always think about the negative spaces that will be created around the plant material, and also just the veining, like in leaves and things like that. And I've had a really great time just making pottery out of large leaves, like pumpkin leaves and gourd leaves and things like that. I just kind of see what kind of strikes my fancy and then take it into the studio. And some days I feel like working on the wheel, and I just get on the wheel and just make a whole bunch of things. And I like to, like if there's a form I particularly enjoy throwing that day, I will do several pieces with that same shape, and not necessarily trying to make them identical, but just to develop and refine the shape and the form. And some days, even after all these years, I'm not good on the wheel, and then I just get up and I go use another process if I want to continue to create in the pot shop. But the slab roller is a wonderful way to use the plant impressions. And then we also have an extruder, which is pretty fun. And you can make a lot of neat things with hollow tubes, and Paul has designed me some very nice walls for casseroles. So he has handmade me these dies so I can extrude out the walls and then make a slab base any shape you want. So that has been very fun. And we just work together, as a team. We have always been really good about working together, and we enjoy each other's company. And
Yes, we're definitely a team. We've been a team for a long time. She worked in the studio with me in the wood turning, helped me build furniture when we were doing that before she became a potter, and even now she will help me in the logs, and sometimes we'll occasionally walk down and look at a form that I'm working on, and I can read her expression. If there's a real nice spontaneous glow, I know it's good. If there's kind of one of these looks like, okay, why did you do this? But it's not a verbal thing at all. It's just we have been together for so long we can basically read each other and normally agree. I like classic forms when I'm doing conventional work that has straight edges and regularity to it. The 1/3, 2/3 classic form, the nice flow to it, the grace, and also when you pick up a piece, it should be balanced, and that can be really, really tricky when you're doing particular forms. The natural edge pieces or the natural pieces are very spontaneous. They talk to you when you're actually creating them. it's intuitive. The piece talks to you when you're actually working. There are some basic rules which obviously you can break, but the grace of the piece and being able to accentuate it and look at it, and the experience of being able to stop in time and to rearrange the piece on the lathe proper, so that when people look at it, there's this instant appeal to it. I want people to pick up the work and say, okay, I can use this, I can do something with this other than just being a dust collector. And there's a tactile thing too. It's fun to watch people pick up the work and touch it and feel it and turn it upside down and set it back down and look at it. That's really a pleasure for me to have people enjoy looking at it and then be surprised. When I'm doing what I consider production work, which is work that's going to be relatively close to the same size and end up serving the same function, I try to accentuate what's naturally there, but still I'm sort of restricted on the form and everything. That's one style to turn, and the other is basically freestyle. And whether it's freestyle or production work, I still try to find something in the wood that I can accentuate. When you're freestyling, it's more spontaneous. If I'm doing green work, the piece will tell me basically what to do with it. The tranquility, the natural beauty that is here inspires me, plus it gives me just a really nice quiet area to kind of wander around and actually work. We have customers that come here, and obviously since we do garden and we farm and raise blueberries and a lot of other things, but still the quietness is just really, really nice. You're not so cluttered.
What would you like to see happen here? The gallery, the farm?
I would like to just see it continue and expand as it's going, because we've expanded or mushroomed over the years, and as Tricia had stated, people enjoy coming out here. I think that's been a really, really good thing. I know that was the whole reason for the gallery to begin with.
I enjoy sharing the space with people, and I feel that there's a lot of potential to have some workshops out here. I'd like to see some more of those things develop where we could share our space here, which is very peaceful and very healing, with more people.
Well, our journey has come to an end, but don't let it stop there. You can write to us at Main Street, care of WKYU PBS, 1906 College Heights Boulevard, number 11034, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42101. Or call us at 270-745-2400 or 1-800-599-2424. And don't forget the World Wide Web. Check out our webpage at the address on your screen. Here you can find our email address as well. So remember, take some time to appreciate the art that's probably all around you if you take a closer look. A very special thanks to Jerry Baker and Craig Cunningham for allowing us to shoot video here at the Joe Downing Museum in Bowling Green. Until next time, I'm Barbara Deeb, and remember, we are just around the corner on Main Street.